Hi, this is Jonathan Rosenhead, the Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post, Parshas Toldos, is going to discuss parenting. Now, there are certain common features that, as parents, we all would agree that we want to see for our children. We want to see that they can grow up to be healthy, to be successful, to be productive, to have good character traits and personality, and an ability to integrate successfully into the wider society. And through these factors, we hope that as parents, we will be able to do a good enough job, to be good enough parents, as Winnicott refers to the skills and the challenge of parenting, to be good enough parents to help our children to develop and to grow up, to be successful and to be productive and to be healthy and to, in a way, hopefully to be good human beings. It sounds very broad and a very wide-stretching and wide-reaching ambition. But most parents would agree that these are the common features and common aspects that we want for all our children. But there is a slight catch to this, because in all of the parenting tips and the parenting lectures, it seems to be presenting that there are certain attributes and certain skills to parenting that can be developed to help our children to fulfill or to reach this goal, this ambition. But what I'm suggesting is perhaps a paradigm shift. Not that it's a novel idea or something that hasn't been discussed before or that parents don't actually know, but the paradigm shift is that although there are common denominators and common factors for all of our children and how we want them to grow up, every child is different. And although a parent knows this, the paradigm shift is actually the parent being able to acknowledge and understand and embrace the individual differences of of their children. This is actually a challenge in parenting, either because it requires a lot of time, it requires a lot of energy, and it requires a lot of emotional space for a parent to actually be able to be flexible enough to acknowledge, understand, and to, in a way, adapt themselves as a parent to each individual child. Now, although logically this makes sense, what we see from this week's Parsha is that it's not necessarily easy to carry it out, to implement this. What we see from this week's Parsha in parenting, in the way that Yitzchak navigates the differences between Yaakov and Esau, we see this challenge playing out. Even more so that Yitzchak seems to actually show a very important and difficult quality as a parent, is that he loved Esau, who is seemingly the difficult child, seemingly the child that is the most challenging. Yitzchak loved Esau, and this is certainly an important message for parenting, in the sense that obviously each child is different and some children are more challenging, and to find a way to love each child is extremely important, and Yitzchak displays this quality of being able to love Esau. And perhaps all the more so, he loved the fact that he was different. Perhaps that he saw, the Mefarshim seem to allude to this idea, that he saw that Esau was a different type of character, was a character that was more external, involved in the outside world, as opposed to Yaakov that was in the the tent, was learning, was more internal focused. Yitzchak identified and noticed this external quality of Esau, and perhaps he hoped that he could nurture this in the way of Torah. But as the Gra explains of Chanach Lana al Pi Darko, he suggests that Yitzchak gave the same education that he gave to Yaakov, he gave it to Esau as well. There was only one parenting style implemented and used by Yitzchak in how he related to Yaakov and Esau. So there is certainly there's a quality to Yitzchak's parenting, in that he could embrace and love this seemingly more difficult child, but the parenting style needed to be adapted to Esau. And he needed to not only to acknowledge the differences and the differences between Yaakov and Esau, but also to adapt his parenting skills towards that. And that is the challenge. And we see in the research, in psychological research, in parenting, and in general, there's so much literature that has been written on individual differences, how a person develops different personalities and characteristics that is inherent to human development. Every person has an individual personality that develops, and research has taken an interest in this to look at the individual differences and how this develops. And also, if we take it further in terms of looking at sibling rivalry or looking at twin research, it gives as a plethora of research, a whole world of understanding of how children need to be looked at in isolation as individuals that are different from one another. Yes, they grow up in shared or different environments, and they may share genetic characteristics, genetic makeup, but the parent needs to acknowledge and understand and embrace the individual differences of every child and allow this to influence and to direct and inform their parenting skills. And this is the challenge, and this is what we need to look at and understand from this week's Parsha. And hopefully this will be something that a parent can take on. And certainly sometimes it can be even more challenging because the child that is most challenging or is certainly different perhaps can be different from you as a parent. It can touch on your own vulnerabilities. It can touch on perhaps your own childhood wounds of how you were brought up, or the type of parenting that you received, or the type of child that you were. So this all goes into the challenging journey and the task of parenting. And this week's Parsha hopefully can give us an encouragement and a direction of understanding that all parents struggle with this, and all parents need to learn gradually how to acknowledge, identify, and understand the individual differences, embrace this, love your child for these differences, and hopefully to tailor the parenting skills in order to help and facilitate the healthy growth and development of your child. Have a great Shabbos and keep well.